Hey everybody, welcome back to our networking series on why your networking is not working and how you can transform it into getting the results you truly want. And today I have one of my favorite topics we're going to talk about today. And yet it's probably something that we all dread, especially when it comes to networking in an absolutely new environment. How nerve-wracking is it to walk into a totally new place and to see groups of people talking and just to be absolutely petrified to go introduce yourself or to kind of barge in a sense, to what these people are talking about. I know for me, that's totally been a concern. I know pretty much for everybody. I think it's pretty natural. In the community, it was a big part of, kind of what we had to address. In the mainstream pickup community, they had a term called AA, which was not Alcoholics Anonymous. It was approach anxiety. And they had what they called a 3-second rule, meaning that if you see somebody you want to talk to and you've made the decision you're going to go walk up to her, that you have 3 seconds to do it, and after that you're just going to totally, screw your mind over in a sense, and it's just never going to happen. Or you're just going to be in such a bad place that you have no shot anyway. So when it comes to a networking event, it's the same thing. It's the same mechanism that works out. You see people and you kind of view yourself as an outsider, and so you have this natural fear or trepidation to actually go up and talk to people. But an even bigger fear that drives that is the fear of standing alone, of being looked at as the outsider. So it's not just feeling that you're an outsider, but it's that confirmation in a sense that your deep fear is actually the truth. Well, we're going to talk about that today, because this is an area in the community that we dealt with a lot. I mean, we would go out in San Diego here, there's a lot of rooftop patios where there's open groups, and obviously you're not going to know everybody there. You might know a few people, but you're not going to know everybody. So how did we get to a point where if we did want to approach people, if we did want to approach our group, how do we approach it? And there's a number of different scenarios that really you have to address, and they're very different in each one. But I'm going to pull the curtain back and I'm going to show you what's really going on under the surface, and give you tremendous confidence knowing you know the formula, so that when you are in these situations, you're probably the only person that understands this. But two, you can tap into something that's going on that people know intuitively, but they can't quite put their finger on. So when you tie into this, they immediately see you as that insider. You see value being built up immediately. And today we're going to talk about a concept that I call group social dynamics. It's how people act in groups, what's really going on under the surface, and really how to tremendously benefit and build a tremendously high value brand from an introduction. So let's get started. Now there's generally 5 different types of scenarios that you're going to encounter, and for the sake of simplicity, we're going to keep this to about groups of at most 3 to 4 people. But having a group of 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or even 10 people isn't going to change this. In fact, it's going to make it easier for you. So we're actually going to deal with the most difficult ones, and if the number of people in each scenario increases, all it means is that the bar for you to have the success is going to be lower. So we're going to deal with the most challenging ones first, but we're going to make it simple, and I'm going to give you the keys to really understand what's happening and how to tap into it and how to really be seen as the highest value person in the group. So the first one is the graphic that you see above, and it's basically where you see, I call it 3 points of a square, where you see people, one to the left, one on top, and one on the right, but there's that space missing. And that dynamic is very unique. And what it tells me when I see this is that there's not 3 people there, there's 4 people there. And what I mean by that is that there's a 4th person that left. That group was defined by having 4 people. And when that person isn't there and it's left in this individual orientation, it means that there's something missing. They need somebody to come in and save the day. Now, it generally is the person who was there before, but people really aren't picky on a subconscious level. They're not. So when you see this, this is awesome. This is literally a plug and play. This is like buying something from IKEA. You just literally get it, put it together, and it's in. You see these 3 people there, and you have the 2 people facing each other with the, kind of an empty space on the one end. All it's saying, guys, is that they're waiting for you to come in to save the day. They want you to come in. They're probably waiting for their friend, but they're going to want you to come in. So you can immediately come in. You're going to close that circle off. The key thing when you do it is you have to do it with confidence. So when you come in and you're talking, you're literally just going to ask, or you can ask it really doesn't even matter what you ask. You can just ask anything. You can say, I totally agree, or sorry I'm late, the traffic was hell, or whatever it was. But going in there, just knowing that when you go into that one, you're going to complete that circle, and they're going to feel really comfortable. Because I can tell you the fact that the two people at the empty end, they're waiting for that one person to come back, and it's kind of, there's a tension in the air. So when you step in, even if they don't know you, it is very psychologically comforting for them. So there's really nothing that you have to do to prove your worth. You just come in with confidence. Now, the one thing you don't want to do is walk in there and not say anything, because that's really creepy and weird. The person who was there before was part of their group and was contributing to the group. If you come in there, close off the circle, and you're not contributing, it's going to really nerve them out in a sense. So when you see this, it's awesome. It's the easiest one, plug and play, IKEA. Go in there and immediately just interject yourself into the group. There's no better way to do it, and all three people will have felt soothed because you have completed the circle. And they're not going to give any crap. They're going to be very welcoming, and at that point, you're instantly going to be their best friend. This one's a little bit different, but it's the same concept. Generally, when you have two people that are diametrically placed from each other, one of them is going to be doing more talking than the other. So you kind of want to sit back and find out which one is doing more of the talking, which one's doing more of the listening. And when you identify that, you want to come up and literally just walk right next to the person that's listening more. Because the person that's talking really is going to be spending all their time talking. The person that's listening is not going to say anything else. And then what you can do, I love this one, is you do the Kramer introduction. So you walk up and stand alongside the person who's not really talking as much. And my favorite thing to do, you're going to use the talkativeness of that person and have it used to your advantage, actually. So you're actually going to say, hey, I heard what you were talking about. By the name, my name's Matt. And they're going to introduce themselves, and immediately you turn to the other person who wasn't talking, and immediately they're going to introduce themselves. So now you have two people that have basically introduced themselves. By doing it, you've formed a group, and then obviously you don't want to sit here and stand shoulder to shoulder with this person forever. That's when you kind of walk out and create that isosceles triangle. And at that point, you can tell when the group has accepted you, and those two people have accepted you because they're going to actually form that triangle with you. So when their body language shows that they're all kind of pointing at each other, that's a sign that you're absolutely in. And I got to tell you, it works like 95% of the time. And for those 5% of the time it doesn't work, you really don't want to be friends with those people anyway. So it's just a sign that you should just not waste your time with them. You need to move on. In the first scenario, we talked about how there was an opening in a 4-person group, how there was that empty space. Well, what happens if you get a group where there's not an empty space, where you get those 4 people and you have kind of the diamond in a sense. You have the 4 people on each side. Well, it's actually really simple. Those people have formed that group, and it's generally not because you have 4 people that are the tightest friends. They just kind of have naturally and organically formed that. So really the easiest way when you see this alignment, all you have to do is literally, and you could pick whichever 2 people on this that you want, you literally are just going to walk in between 2 of the people that are in the diamond. And what they're going to do immediately is, because people have an elbow room thing and people have this unique personal space thing, is they're going to space it out, and that will go from a square or a diamond into a pentagram. And at that point in time, there's no pressure for you to immediately contribute. So if you're somebody that generally is not talkative, is a little shy, this is the group that you want to actually go into, because when you talk to it, there's less of an obligation to actually contribute until you really want to contribute. But this one's easy. You think it's closed off because there's 4 people, but really all you have to do is walk in between the 2 people that you want to walk in, and then contribute when you want to. But the group itself will turn itself into a pentagram. And obviously if there's 5 people, this group will turn into a hexagon, and so forth and so forth. But starting with the 4, it's basically the same thing. But what happens when there's 3 people, like you see over here? That isosceles triangle, the people that are totally closed off. In this example, there's basically 2 different scenarios that you'll see in here. There's going to be one where you want to look for the person that has body language that they want to get out. So there's going to be somebody that takes their shoulder and backs it away, and they're kind of, in a sense, opening up the triangle. And if that's the case, then that's kind of an opportunity for you to walk in there and literally just stand right next to them. What happens is they're either going to leave or they're going to expand it out and turn it into a diamond. But if you don't see that, if you see this group talking and they're totally closed, most likely they're really close, and it's going to be probably one of the more difficult ones to do. And this one is going to be a little bit more difficult. So if you're shy or you're not really, all that confident, you probably want to avoid this group. Look for some of the other ones. But if it's one that you really want to get into that group, you see somebody that you really want to get introduced to, but you do it, you want to find the person there that you know. Not even that you know personally, but you have some Kevin Bacon degree of connection with. It could be third connection or fourth connection. And what's great about it is you don't have to know them or anything about them personally, but you could say, aren't you so-and-so? And immediately they're going to feel honestly really honored. They're like, wow, people know me? They go, yeah. He goes, oh yeah, I wanted to say hi to you earlier. Who are you hanging out with? And immediately you're going to have somebody that feels tremendously honored that you've done this, and they're going to feel the urge to pay it back. And so immediately they're going to introduce you to these people. And so then that triangle, that closed triangle that was really hard to get into, turns into that rectangle. And the fact that this person gave you a warm introduction in the group means that those people are going to immediately trust you. So if there's that other person in the group that you really wanted to get connected with, there is no better way to do it. This is ninja type stuff, guys, but it's tremendously useful. Now the last one, we're going to just make this really easy. This is very anticlimactic. There's no secret difficult things on here, but if you see this, just a very simple scenario here where somebody's standing alone. These are people, this is a sign of somebody that has no idea what I'm teaching you. So this isn't about you trying to basically get into a group that's difficult or figure it out. This is an opportunity for you to save lives. We are here to make a difference, guys. We're here to make people's lives better. That's why we do what we do. That's what our lives are all about. So when you see somebody like this, standing alone, go in there and save their lives. There's no magic. There's no ninja. There's no more formula. Just go do it. But right before we go, I'm going to give you one super cool bonus tip for you. And this is something that I learned in the community, and it's really awesome. And there's two terms that we use in the community. One is what most people have heard as a wingman, but there's another term that we use in the community called a pivot, and this is a better use of this here. When you go to a networking event, if you know nobody, there are things that you're going to have to do, some of which are in this episode, some of which are in the other teachings that we have, but they're going to be things that you have to do. And it's obviously a higher degree of difficulty, but it's very doable, very, very, very doable, and really easy once you start to get in the practice of it. But a pivot is really key, and there is a lesson in our community portal. If you're not there, if you're in the community, go check that out, and we talk about that. If not, I believe it's still on our YouTube page. Go check that out as well. But basically what a pivot is it's somebody that goes in and it's designed from a physics point of view. A pivot is something that allows you to get more leverage in a situation than if you were standing from a point of inertia. And so if you can have somebody there ahead of time that's going to vouch for you in a sense, or really praise your name up, it's really key. And I can tell you, it's really awesome when you walk into a networking event and immediately the person goes, hey, this is my friend Bill or my friend Matt or my friend Nancy or whoever it is. They're awesome. You have to talk to them. And then what I want you to do at that point is just to look at everybody in the eyes. You don't even have to say anything. And you'll look at their eyes going, this can't be real. Really? And immediately they're going to ascribe to you in a tremendously high level of value. But they're not just going to take your word for it. They're going to want to kick the tires a little bit. But what's going to happen is their initial thought will be your higher value. And at that point, you're going to have a bunch of people that are actively trying to engage you in a conversation, really for the sake of trying to see if you're really what they say they are, but with a firm belief that you are until proven guilty. But the one thing that's really cool is that these people will initially come to talk to you out of curiosity, out of need, out of the pure endorsement itself. But if you can go into a networking event where you have a pivot, it is an absolutely moneymaker move, and it just makes things super easy. You don't have to be well spoken. You don't have to be the most extroverted person out there. It just makes things super easy. So I will see you in the next episode. Take care.